The more general topic, especially as an elementary school teacher, when people ask questions, I typically tell people keep it age appropriate. My mom said to me, "Oh my gosh, how is your brother and his wife going to tell their children how y'all are having kids? It's going to be so confusing." And it was just like, clutching the pearls. What is the family going to do? And I was like, well, at some point, they're going to have to tell their children how they were made, which is a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
that's for sure.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
for sure.
It's pretty clinical the way our children were made.
That's right.
To me, that's a little bit more awkward.
Jere, that's a great point.
I was like, Mom, keep it simple. Just say Jere and OG want to have children. And if they ask questions, just say they need a little bit of help from the doctor. Keep it simple, keep it age appropriate to whatever's comfortable for you. And as they age, then add on the layers.
If you're interested in queer parenting, if you're interested in becoming a queer parent, if you're interested in raising children in a queer household, if you're interested in neurodivergence, and if you're interested in a variety of topics in that area, you will love this episode. You're going to meet two influencers who are popular for good reason, but they are also loving, compassionate people and have so much to share. So pull up a chair, get ready. You're going to love this episode. From our Building Your Family community, this is the Building Your Family podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Schumann, author, researcher, and reproductive medicine therapist. As the leading destination for support and education for people using reproductive medicine to grow their families, we cut through the noise to provide you with research-based information, effective and actionable strategies, and the support that you need to feel better, so you can get into the driver's seat of your life and build the family of your dreams. We look forward to seeing you inside. Welcome to the Building Your Family podcast. Today, I am so delighted because I'm going to introduce you to somebody who's going to make your week. This is the couple that is so lovely and so wonderful in so many ways. And I think that it will not only help you through what we're going through in this country right now, but also, I think, give you a little extra sparkle during Pride Week. So Jere Chang and OG Chang are wives, moms, and Jere's a teacher and a public speaker. She's an influencer, and they do wonderful videos that you can find on TikTok, Instagram, wherever you want to look. And they have a beautiful and warm and compassionate family, and you will see that. But in this episode, you're going to see a lot more. So welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
So can we start at the beginning? How did you guys meet each other?
Good.
Okay. We get this question all the time, and it is so funny because it's so basic. We met on Match.com.
Ah, okay.
In 2007, when it was still on the computer, and so you had to email each other. There was no swiping or having it on phone.
Oh,
yeah. I was a kindergarten
Dark
teacher.
ages. No.
And so she's 9 years younger than me, and she was out of my age range. But they had this feature where you can see who viewed your profile. And I saw that she looked at my profile, and I was like, okay, let me take a gander at this lady. And so I took a look, and I was like, okay, she seems pretty mature. I think, what are you, 26? Mm-hmm. For a 26-year-old.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I messaged her, and almost 20 years later, here we are.
Here you are. Beautiful. Did you get married right away, or were you dating for a while, or what were your thoughts?
We dated for 2 years, and then we moved in together. And then we had no intentions of getting married because it wasn't legal. And so we just kind of were going through life.
Yeah, because of the way the laws work. So we're from Georgia. And when we started getting serious, we bought a home together. No plans of having children, and no plans of really getting married or anything like that. But we did want to have a commitment and hey, we love each other, right? And so we kind of went to Peru and had a big honeymoon, a big party, and things like that. And again, marriage wasn't legal. And then it was once we started having children, we may get to this in a little bit more because I could talk forever. You might have some more questions to ask. We had 2 kids, and in between having the 2 children, because of laws, we had to get married.
Well, so in between having the 2 kids, the law changed where it became across the nation that gay marriage was legalized. And so for our first kid, Jerry had to do a second parent adoption because there was no other way to get her onto the birth certificate. So she had to adopt a child that was already in our house, and we had to go through all that process, including a home study and everything. It was just crazy times.
Yeah, crazy.
And then we got pregnant with our second, and laws changed. And in order for Jerry to adopt him, we had to be legally married. The judge required that we had to be legally.
Yeah, the judge was going to deny the adoption unless we were married.
Oh.
So we got married in December.
We ran to the court, literally fast,
Yeah.
legalized wedding. And then only then was I able, and we weren't like against getting married, just like, okay, whatever, marriage, whatever. But then we had to, in order for me to be able to legally adopt our second child.
We were already committed to each other, so we weren't so concerned about paper necessarily, but
yeah,
we did. And now we're legal, and
because there are a lot of complications, with the children being legally both of our children.
Yes, of course.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And so it's, I'm a big advocate for getting married. Why not? Right.
Right.
You have one more protection. It's important.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly.
People think, LGBTQ folks are like fighting for special rights. A lot of people fail to realize that some of just the basic rights, we lose those if we're not legally married. For example, one of the reasons we wanted to get married, especially with having kids, let's say one of us was hospitalized. The hospital, depending on when or where, could deny the other one like access to making decisions or just visitation or simple things. So we started having kids. We were like, okay, and before we got married, we did get a lawyer.
Oh yeah,
and we had living wills and all that
done because we had no legal protection, so we had to put them in writing to make them
legal as best as we could before marriage was legal.
Well, good for you. That's good. That's really important. That's really important.
A lot of adulting.
Yes.
But, unfortunate adulting, right? I mean, we shouldn't have, you guys shouldn't have to go through all that. And sadly, that's the way it is. So everyone has to really be thoughtful about that. And you guys were certainly doing this in a red state also. And so that could be more complicated. I know certainly now we're seeing here in New York, Connecticut area, a lot of people are sending their embryos over here because they have a lot of concerns about that. And so as you were going through getting married or being legally responsible for both of your kids and then starting your family building path or thinking about it, were you thinking about that? Like, here we are in a place in the world that it maybe is not like New York or some other places in the world. Did you have any concerns?
Absolutely. We live in Atlanta and the neighborhood we live in, and Atlanta specifically. When people think of Georgia, they think of Georgia as a whole. A lot of people fail to realize that Atlanta and Georgia are two extremely polar opposites politically and things like that. So we were extremely intentional about where we were going to choose to live in Georgia, and that being Atlanta, because we wanted our kids to grow up as much as, there's going to be bullying, there's going to be judgments, that's going to happen anywhere. But, and me being an elementary teacher, I had already chosen a school that would accept me. So yeah, it was very deliberate, very intentional. Fortunately, and that comes with a place of privilege that we had the ability to kind of choose where we live. Everybody doesn't have that, but we were able to be intentional about the neighborhood we live in, the area we live in, and just kind of the perception of our family and us as a interracial, two women couple,
It was important for us, for our kids to be able to have friends and go over to friends' houses and have them come over to our house and not worry about the parents being negative against.
Just feeling normal, lack of a better word.
Yes. And so you live somewhere else. You lived in a more suburban area before?
I grew up in a really small conservative town. It was awful growing up. The town had great things and cool things, but as far as being gay and queer, I had one foot out the door. And then your growing up experience.
I was in a suburb of Atlanta, and I had a home out there. We were good I was good to go. I had my home, but Jerry's like, we are living in Atlanta, and I was like, okay, I will move for you to Atlanta. It was only 45 minutes away, so it wasn't like a big upheaval, but yeah.
I lived in an extremely homophobic upbringing. And then even my college was in North Georgia in the mountains, extremely homophobic. So once I was able to get a taste of just being engrossed in homophobia, I was like, to much of my ability, as much as I possibly can, I will never live like that again if I'm able. So when we started getting serious, and she's like, I live in the burbs, I was like, for the record,
yeah, she let me know up front.
I'm not leaving a 5-mile radius.
Yeah.
When we got together, she had just purchased a condo in Atlanta.
Tiny, like 700 square feet.
Yeah, in Atlanta. So she was like, I'm where I want to be. And I was like, okay, I have no deep roots necessarily. I'm willing to go wherever.
You had like a 2,500 square foot house.
I did.
We had 3 dogs, and we chose, well, I kind of influenced living in a 700 square feet. And then it got pretty tight after about a year, and that's when we decided looking for a home.
And we still had no intentions of having kids. We actually moved. So currently we're in the city of Atlanta proper, which means we can go to the city of Atlanta schools. When we purchased our house, since we had no intention of having kids, we actually got together on Match. One of the profile questions was, do you want kids?
No.
And we both said no. And that's
you have
one
2
of the
kids.
Yeah, that's one of the things we matched on, was the fact that we didn't want kids.
Children. Absolutely not.
So
hard no.
We bought a house, just kind of, we weren't concerned about schools, we weren't concerned about anything. We just were concerned about kind of just location for us in terms of where getting to things, getting to school, our friends, and
we're happy.
Yeah, and so since we weren't concerned about schools, we just kind of bought a house in an area, and we were great. And then
we decided to have kids.
And then one day, so we're just going along, living our life, nothing too crazy happening. And one day, like one spring day, we were having dinner on the patio, and I was just looking up at the sky, enjoying the evening. And Jerry looked at me and she's like, how do you feel about having kids? And it was crazy that she asked me that, because I had started to feel like, man, it would be nice if we had kids, but I wasn't going to bring it up because we got together on the fact that we weren't going to have kids. And I was just like, it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
And I was like, and so I was just in absolute shock. I was like, are you serious? I was like, I've been thinking about this for the past, few months or whatever.
Oh, you were thinking about it.
Yeah, I had been thinking about it, and she just happened to bring it up that afternoon. And my mom, who, typical mother-in-law, was like, are you guys gonna have kids? And we told her and very emphatically, we have no plans to have kids. We're not gonna have kids. No kids.
Oh, she started crying.
Yeah, she
really.
So when we made this decision to look into having kids,
I think she has the embryo frame.
Yeah, we called her and we're like, hey, by the way, we are thinking of having kids. And she's like, oh. So she
was excited.
A happy grandmother. Yes. Well, not
That's
grandmother
so
to be,
nice.
I should say.
So you guys had supportive parents.
Yeah, on my end, they weren't not supportive, but they had a lot of questions, and there was some explaining. They weren't like, oh, this is horrible, you shouldn't do this. So I was like, okay. So it was a little bit more not as celebratory. Yeah. They're fine now. Everything's great. Well, both my parents have since passed away since we've had children, and my siblings are supportive. I have some nieces and nephews who are staunchly involved in our lives. But it wasn't. And plus, my mom there's a whole bunch of grandkids. I don't even know how many. There's a bunch of them. But for
this was going to be my mom's first
and only opportunity.
Yeah, first and only. Whereas her mom already had
there's a bunch,
6 or 7, 8, something already at the time. So.
We make 8. She had 6. Now
okay,
8.
Yeah.
But Jere, you said that you grew up in a very conservative area. So were your parents supportive when you met OG? Did they feel like?
So I'm older than OG. Let's see. When I came out, I was 21, 22. And so when I came out, I waited until I was financially independent because I was afraid I would be disowned financially and not be able to support myself.
Wow.
And my mom was, when I was in high school and there was suspicions of me being gay and I was having these secret relationships, but I was not very, I guess I wasn't good at keeping a secret because it was kind of known. My mom was not supportive at all. I finally told my sister when I was in college. When I came out to my mom after college, she was supportive. Enough to be okay with me and happy with me being with a woman. She knew that's the life that I wanted. There was still some political things that would continue to happen that would divide us at times. But for the most part, yeah, my kids, my sister hosts us for Thanksgiving and Christmas time. We go over, our kids go, she buys them gifts, or they're welcome, they're loved, they're celebrated. But it was definitely, but even your mom wasn't always 100% supportive either, right? when you were younger? Yeah.
I didn't come out until college, and when that happened, she was just like, I'm an older child, so what's she going to do unless she doesn't want me in her life? So
She has no other choices.
It's not like she was celebrating it, but she
Yeah.
just accepted it, and we moved on.
So now you're saying we want kids,
Yeah.
and you're not getting any pushback from your families, thank goodness. How did you decide? Do we want to use donor conception? Do we want to adopt? How do I, what was the plan?
We have friends who've adopted, and that's a great path for a lot of people. We just kind of felt the connection to want to have our, birth kids. And how we chose, it was a pretty easy choice for us. I was encroaching on 40 at the time. I was like, I was like 38, 39, and she was going to be like 29, 30. And I was also born with a disability called spina bifida. I was supposed to be paralyzed from the waist down. I have a neurogenic bladder. I had to use a catheter. And when I was younger, doctors told my mom there's a possibility she won't be able to have children. Now, that's never been tested. I've never tried. However, if you have two women, to choose from, and one is knocking on 40 with a disability that's been described as maybe not be able to have kids, and one who's younger and without a disability, it was just kind of like, I think we should go with a healthier oven, if you will. So we did. It just made logical sense for us. Yeah.
So you said, okay, that decision's made. What about the sperm donor? Were you thinking about like somebody you knew, somebody you didn't know?
So we never considered anybody we knew. And we wanted to find someone who was of Jere's race.
White person.
Yeah.
But seriously, just be casual. We wanted a white man that if we conceived a child, the child would kind of look like a combination of us. And then we looked into like health and all that stuff.
Yeah. And so we went to one clinic and we found somebody and we purchased his sperm and we started off with IUI. We found a doctor that specialized in same-sex fertilization. We went with IUI and we tried
3 times.
3 times.
And it failed. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. Yeah. So each time there was it didn't take, and we were just like, okay, we're not gonna spend any more money on IUI. We are going to go the IVF route and hopefully get it done. The doctor that we were working with only did IUI, so we found an actual IVF clinic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you know what? I just want to say that I think that was really, so insightful because a lot of people don't, and a lot of the, lesbian couples I see don't really get some guidance about that. But what you just said is so important. When a fertility doctor is looking at a heterosexual couple and thinking, okay, we'll do multiple IUIs until it works, and IVF is so expensive, and why? But it's very hard to think about this. But if you're a same-sex female couple, you don't have free sperm. So even if you're in a situation where you think, oh, well, IVF is expensive, buying all that sperm is expensive.
So we have a friend who's well known like throughout the world in maternal health, OBGYN. He's retired now. And so he was also kind of like coaching us and guiding us on the side. So when we were going to do IVF, our first visit, they're like, we need to put in 2 or 3 embryos. And I was like, why? Because 2 or 3 embryos can make like 5 or 6 kids. And I'm not ready for like a handful of kids.
Yeah.
And I was like, most of these studies with IVF were focused on, heterosexual couples who were struggling to have children.
Yeah, I have no history of
none
of not being able to conceive. I haven't had a lot of shots at it. At this point, I had only had 3 attempts at trying to conceive.
So I was like, so we had to like actually we told them that decision.
We told them we were absolutely adamant about only putting one.
Let's try one the first time, and if it fails, okay, then we'll have this discussion. But I don't want, 4 babies. No judgment to those who do, but I wasn't ready to have 4 babies.
Well, it's dangerous for the person carrying, and it's dangerous for the babies.
Yeah. So we ended up switching to an IVF clinic, and in that process, we also ended up switching sperm donors because during the IUI, the doctor had expressed some concern about the sperm, and so we were like, okay, even though we're doing IVF, we're just gonna wipe the slate clean, and we're going to try new.
So we found a new man.
So we found a new donor. And we got the special, IVF version of the sperm. I guess.
Mhm.
I don't remember. But yeah, because there's so many options with sperm, which is
Oh my God.
insane.
Yeah.
I mean, from the same donor, it's like washed, unwashed,
Yes.
special vial this, special vial that. And so we were just like, we asked them what we needed, and that's
got it.
what
We
we
got
got.
it. Yeah.
So we had it shipped to them, and I went through the whole IVF process. She gave me the nightly shots in my bottom, or I guess my back. It wasn't my actual
Who's your
butt.
butt?
Mhm.
It was close enough, but
Mhm.
upper butt.
Yeah.
And went through all that medicine and everything.
We were camping one time, and I had to get the
Yeah,
shots.
that's right. We still lived our life, but we, we
Mhm.
made sure to take all of our supplies with us to stay on
Track.
on track on the cycle. Yeah. And so finally the day came for harvesting my eggs, and they went and they harvested them, and then they introduced them to the sperm and ended up with, I think, 13 embryos.
We still have some.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I know.
yeah, we had 13 embryos. And then to the part where they're like, okay, you have all these embryos, we were considering, putting 2 or 3 in you and all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, absolutely not. Just put one. If that doesn't work, then we'll go to multiple. But I
That's
had
smart.
a feeling that there was concern that with the IUI that the egg and the sperm just weren't meeting. And so
Mhm.
we had no information about whether or not a fertilized embryo had actually made it to where it needs to be. I was like, we just need one. We'll see what's going on in my uterus, and we'll go from
Mhm.
there. And so they picked the embryo. Well, they let them, I guess, grow for 3 to 5 days or something like that. They picked the embryo and they sent us the information. And so I had a picture of the embryo, and I sent it to my mom. I was like, hey, mom, this is the one that's going to be implanted in a couple of
Mhm.
days or whatever. And and she was just over the moon. Like Jerry said, she like took it, she framed it. She's like, this is the one.
Oh.
It's gonna take. I know it is. I have a feeling. This is
Oh.
gonna be my baby. She calls them her babies.
First baby picture.
And so we were like, okay, let's do this. And so the process to put the embryo back inside of me, and he took, and he's now our oldest.
Wow. And so then you had one, and did you
Mhm.
say, like, when you're going into this, we want 1 kid or 2, or were you not even thinking about that?
We knew going in we wanted to, definitely.
So how far
Mhm,
apart in age
reason-
are they?
2 years.
Yeah. One's 9 and one's 11.
That's
We knew
great.
me being an older parent, even though I wasn't giving birth, I was like, when we were deciding to have kids, I was like, I know it's your body, but as much as you're able, I don't want to be 50 and having the second kid. So as much as a quick turnaround as we can have, so it's 2-year age gap.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. And you're such a beautiful family. I've watched your videos
Oh,
online.
thank you.
Really, they're so fantastic. Your kids are so
They're fighting
great.
downstairs. I don't know if y'all can hear them.
No,
It's play
can't.
right now. It's play fighting. The younger one is growling and seemingly attacking the older one.
Oh my gosh.
And right now it's harmonious, but this part we may have to pause. We'll see. Right now we're good.
No one's
It's
banging on the
okay.
door yet, though, so we are good.
Oh my goodness. Well, they're children. This is what happens,
Right.
right?
It's life.
Yes.
It's real
Yeah,
life.
it's life. It's life. Imagine your beautiful future. You're snuggling with your child. You feel so connected to them. Your friends and family are so happy, and you have everything that you've ever wanted. I want this for you too, but I want more than that. I want you to feel secure knowing that you've made the best decisions, not just short term, but long term for your future family. Wherever you are on your journey, whether you're choosing a donor, choosing a clinic, learning how to talk to your donor-conceived child about their origins, all of these decisions will have wider implications for your future. And I want you to have the right resources so you can feel empowered and confident at this very important time in your life. That's why I'm so excited to introduce you to Building Your Family. It's the only expert-guided platform designed for parents and parents-to-be using reproductive medicine. We provide unique strategies that you won't find anywhere else to make your path to parenthood smoother and more informed. And that's why our approach is about offering practical and actionable steps that you can use right now. Whether you're just starting out or already deep into your process, Building Your Family is here to guide you with expert advice, specialized education, stress reduction strategies, and a community to support you every step of the way. We can't wait to see you inside. So tell me if you don't mind, a little bit about how you handle these things. I think, before we start, I was sharing with you that I see a lot of people who get nervous about building their family and think, how am I going to handle this situation? How am I going to handle that? So one of the questions I get a lot is, how am I going to handle people's questions about my family, about, do you have a dad, about who are you genetically connected to? Because those are things, your kids are not newborns. You've probably had to deal with all of those things already. So what would you advise people?
Yeah, I love this question because I'll never forget. We were in Costco and our oldest son we were an infant, and an elderly woman was checking us out. And I'm used to people putting other people in boxes. Like, we do it naturally as humans. We put things in. I do it. We all do it. We try to pretend like we don't, but we do. And I guess she looked at us and she saw me holding our oldest, and I guess she assumed I was her mother-in-law because I was older. And she said, "Is that your grandchild?" And my knee-jerk reaction was to say yes, because I didn't want to make her feel uncomfortable. We walked out, and man, that hit me so hard. I said, I will never do that again. I have chosen to bring children into this world. From here forward, I'm going to live my life unapologetically me, and I hope that we can do that as a family. And so now when people ask questions, you're going to get the honest answer. And
sometimes they don't like it, but
I'm going to fast forward to, I'll say, 2 years in the future. We were in Hilton Head, South Carolina, a small little island off the coast of South Carolina. And we were with her mom and stepdad. And they're all Black folks. And then there's me, the white lady. And I think it was just Jackson. Yeah, the oldest. And so we're at a crab shack. And it's one of those places, it is popular, touristy, and you have to kind of like fight for a table and get the table. And Jackson's getting antsy. He's 2 and he's antsy, and he doesn't care about getting crabs, right? And so she had been holding him the whole time. And so I say to her and her parents, I was like, hey, if y'all want, y'all stay inside and fight for the table. I'll take Jackson outside and let him run around in the little like gravel lot. Cool. So we go outside, and again, another elderly lady, very Southern, which I'm well versed in. And she says, "Is that your grandson?" Okay. Again, I'm not offended. She's just making small talk. And I said, "No, ma'am," trying to be Southern like I was raised to be. I said, "No, ma'am, he's my son." And her face just kind of, her lips kind of pursed up, and she's confused. And she goes, "Well, that other lady was kind of acting like his mom." And now I think she's thinking she's the nanny, younger Black lady. I'm the older white lady. So now she's kind of like, she doesn't know. She's still confused. She doesn't know what's going down. And I was like, oh no, that's his mom too. We are both his moms. He has 2 moms. And the look of disgust, her face went from delightful to disgust. And that was a young man, like 18 years old, taking the names like at the hostess, or I guess our host stand. He was cackling. And I said to the lady, I was like, look, if you don't want answers, don't ask questions. And so
that's great.
Now, that being said, in the more general topic, especially as an elementary school teacher, when people ask questions, I typically tell people, keep it age appropriate. My mom said to me, oh my gosh, how is your brother and his wife going to tell their children how y'all are having kids? It's going to be so confusing. And it was just like, clutching the pearls. What is the family going to do? And I was like, well, at some point, they're going to have to tell their children how they were made, which is a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, exactly. That's for sure.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
for sure.
It's pretty clinical the way our children were made.
That's right.
To me, that's a little bit more awkward.
Jerry, that's a great point.
I was like, Mom, keep it simple. Just say Jerry and OG want to have children. And if they ask questions, just say they need a little bit of help from the doctor. Keep it simple. Keep it age appropriate to whatever's comfortable for you. And as they age, then add on the layers of they needed sperm because they don't genetically have their own sperm. So they had to, find sperm. And then that's where the doctor comes in to help them. How does the sperm get in there? Instead of using the man parts, they had to use doctor's instruments. Same kind of process, just not as exciting and fun and spicy. It's just more clinical. And then the rest is pretty much the same,
Interesting. That's a great point. I run a workshop for donor conceived children about helping them understand, and I
cool.
ran it in the New York, I'm in the New York area at the LGBT Center downtown for many years, and we talk a lot about how children are going to talk to other people, right? Because as adults, we have to figure out, like you're saying, how do I find what's right for me, right? How do I get to that place that's right for me? Do I want to answer people? Do I not want to answer people? Do I want to be private? Do I want to tell part of the story? Am I just honestly sick of telling the story? Right. So, how did you approach it with your kids? Because your kids probably have their own personalities, right? And their ideas about some kids are more outgoing, some kids are more private. How did you manage that process with your kids and how they share that information?
Really did in that sense because of the area we live in. Our kids aren't the only donor conceived children, so it's not a novelty that other children are looking for answers from. So we're in an area where if their kids go home and say, "Hey, Jackson doesn't have a dad, how is he here?" to their parents are actually likely to explain it to them, and then the questions don't necessarily come back to our children from that sense.
Yeah, we really haven't had much of that at all where we live.
That's great.
I mean, I've seen situations at the park when they'll befriend somebody. I remember one time Jackson was on these monkey bars with this kid, and he said he had two moms. And I heard the kid say, "That's weird. Don't you need a dad?" And he was just like, "Well, that's what I have. I got two moms." And then he's like, "There's one of them right over there." And then he starts bragging about how many TikTok followers I have, and then the kid just forgot it.
Yes.
Once my son flexed my TikTok followers, the kid was like, "Who needs a dad? She's
That's
got 2
right.
million TikTok followers." I mean, and I'm not saying that for real. That was just kind of where the conversation between two children actually steered. It was kind of
Yeah,
funny.
of course. Yeah. They're much more interested in that. Of
I
course.
actually asked my sons, like, I said, "Have y'all ever been bullied? Has anybody ever made fun of you?" Because I work at the school where they go.
Oh.
And I'm very open and I'm very out. We live in the neighborhood. I walk to school first and then she walks with the kids. We live really close to the school. And both of my kids are like, "No, nobody's ever said anything
That's
at
great.
all." And I'm like, "Well, it's probably going to happen eventually." And I've kind of given him some clapbacks, you know. I said, "Just own it. If somebody's like, 'Oh, you have two moms,' just say stuff like, 'Yeah, I know. Imagine living with two moms. You got two moms telling you to pick up your socks, two moms telling you to do homework.'" And just to
That's
kind of
great.
just to kind of lean into it, a little bit of humor and just own it. But either have yet to have that situation.
Or at
So
least
you,
they haven't had it in the sense that they felt the need to come, that it's impacted them in such a way that they needed to come tell us.
Right.
And they are big about telling us.
Oh, yeah.
Anything
That's
that may have
great. That's
happened or
beautiful.
upset them. So.
Right,
Well,
right, for sure.
Well, I think that speaks to you guys being such great moms and so involved with your
Absolutely.
kids, of course. And what about their donor? Do they have questions about their donor?
Not
I'm so
yet.
surprised.
I mean, we have pictures of him. We
Yeah.
have like a background of writing from him. At one point, we were in a little group with him as well as other people who have conceived from his sperm. And
They're more interested in, like, even me, the non-birthing mom, like the history of my family, ancestors, and
oh yeah,
stuff
I mean
like
they fully embrace, as they should, but
our family.
Yeah.
Your family, because that's your family.
Nieces and nephews, yeah. And like, I mean, I'm very ready and prepared to be like, "This is your donor. He helped make you. We're very thankful for him. Like, this is a very important person in your life who's literally contributed to your life." But it doesn't really come up. Like, we're not.
I think he came up once when he was 5.
We tried to, like,
and we showed him the picture, and he was just kind of okay. And that was the end of the questions. We're just like, okay. I mean, when they're 18, we went the route where when they're 18, they're allowed to contact the donor or whatever.
So
Open
anonymous,
ID.
open. So
Open
donor
identity.
is open for us to communicate with him.
And so if either of them, if they want to reach out, they can. He has 3 children of his own with his wife, and he seems very open to. He understands the fact that he has about 20 other children.
Pretty cool thing. Yeah.
Around the country, and I think even Australia.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. You mentioned that you're in contact with other people who use the same donor. Are the kids in touch with other donor siblings?
We have not gone that route with anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we're opposed to it. It
We
just
just haven't. Life.
none of the families have actually reached out and
Made that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your kids haven't asked at this point. I mean,
No.
interested. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They are
Yeah.
so, I guess,
They're
just
so self-absorbed.
let me say something.
Well, but this is they're just living their life,
They have each
right?
other. They have their cousins.
The youngest one is a capitalist. He just wants to buy Lego every time we go out.
Oh my
Can we get more Lego, more Lego, more Lego? And the oldest one just wants to travel and meet family members. I mean,
play video
they
games.
play video games. They're just
Their lives are simple.
they're
Right?
delightful, but they're kind of typical
Yes.
kids. They're just like
Yes.
and I don't mean this like egotistically. They're just self-absorbed.
Yes,
They're
of course.
children.
Well, yes, they're living their life and this is their family. And so they're not
Exactly.
at this point yet. And we see very often, as kids get older, they start to think about these things. They're still young. So they might start to
Yeah.
think about it later. And it sounds like you guys are very open.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
That's great.
And we had conversations in the beginning about having the kids that we wanted to be as open as possible about the whole situation. So we have been open to answer any questions should they have them, but we're also not going to just like press
Force
it
it
upon
on
them. Like, you must have this information
Mhm,
until they're
mhm.
like, 18 out in the world
Yeah.
and dating. And there's, maybe some,
I'm dating a girl who looks like
exactly. There may be some additional, screening
never
that they
know.
have to do as adults, just because
Yes.
there are a lot of donor children out.
Yeah.
Just in
Lots.
general, a lot of donor children, and so they may want to get, some kind of test to make sure they're not
Do a little
siblings. But
DNA testing before
yeah,
we go to the prom.
yes, exactly. Other
Yes.
than that, until that point, we're just letting them live their life however they see fit, within
That's
reason.
great. Right. Within reason. Exactly. It sounds like you guys are on the same page about most things, about parenting issues and all sorts of things regarding the kids.
Yeah,
for the most part. Yeah.
compatible.
Yeah.
That's great.
I let her handle most of the deep emotional talks. She's a much better at that, especially with all her years of experience working with children. I'm just like, what's wrong with you? Go talk to mom.
Right.
We
Right.
divide and conquer fairly well. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. That's so important in a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, above everything else, if you're not on the same page, then it
Yeah.
can really be a problem. I was wondering, Jere, you also work with neurodivergent kids.
Yep.
And I really love, as I mentioned to you earlier, this neurospicy term that you've coined, which is fantastic. As I mentioned to you, I have neurodivergent kids too. And how do you share with the parents? Because you have such a lovely, kind of lighthearted, embracing, loving perspective on a lot of things. I'd be curious to hear what your perspective is on that too, because people who start down this path, they worry about these sorts of things, right?
Right.
Are my kids going to be neurodivergent or not?
Right. So, just briefly for your listeners, neurodivergent is a huge, huge umbrella term, anywhere from autism to ADHD. And now a lot of research is supporting the idea that giftedness itself is a neurodivergence. So I teach gifted education, which, like I said, research now is supporting that in itself is a neurodivergence. Basically, neurodivergent is children who learn and process the world differently. Just to sum that up in a nutshell, we could talk about that for an hour, though, but that's to sum it up quickly. And then within gifted education, gifted kids meaning kids who are accelerated in one or more academic area and or the creative or performing arts. And of that subgroup of kids, I do have some children who ADHD, learning disabilities, autism spectrum disorder, and things like that. And a lot of people, when they learn that I teach gifted, they're like, oh, you have all the good, smart kids. And I'm like, have you ever spent time with a gifted child? It's not all sunshines and rainbows.
Mhm.
They learn differently. They're quirky. As I didn't coin it, but I love using the term neurospicy. They learn different, and I am here for it. I love spending my time with kids who learn differently. I feel like I'm with folks that I can just naturally connect with, and we just celebrate the space together. These are the kids who they will correct you when you're wrong. They will correct you when you're right.
Wow.
If you're off schedule, they will let you know. If you get your hair cut or something done to your face, they will let you know it is not working out. And I'm here for all of it.
Wow.
I celebrate those kids on my platform. I do share a lot of like mom life, queer life, to mom life, but I also share a lot about gifted education kids, and specifically even with that realm, kids with like autism and things like that. And I'm just here to advocate for them. As a teacher, people don't realize, they think, oh, you're a gay teacher, you must have an agenda. I'm like, you're right, I do. I have a hard agenda, and that is to accept and love and celebrate every single child who walks through my door. And then I will say this, I lean into this really hard. I don't care who your parents voted for. I will support you and love you and advocate for you. And that's what people often fail to realize. They think I'm running around with gay flags. I don't care if you celebrate Ramadan, Jesus, and nobody. I am going to celebrate you. But the way it often works is in education. I've digressed. You got me started.
Yeah.
Often the kids that we need to fight the most for are the ones who are marginalized.
Yes.
And those are minority students. And at my school, it is the kids who are celebrating Ramadan. It is going to be the queer kids. I have taught queer kids. I've taught trans kids. Yes, in elementary school, those kids exist. Kids with autism. Those are the kids who need fighting for. They're the ones
Yes.
who are marginalized. So
Yes.
no, I'm typically not making videos like, hey, the little straight white boy who plays football, who's successful in straight A's and typical, neurotypical. I'm not fighting as hard for him because
He
they
doesn't
don't
need it.
need it as much. Right.
Mhm.
I'm definitely fighting for him, but I'm definitely fighting for the kids who need more representation and fighting. And so that does show. I consider myself I call it radical kindness or passive activism. Yes, I'm fighting
Mhm.
for all the kids.
It's beautiful.
That
It's
gets me
beautiful.
worked up.
No, it's beautiful. That's so beautiful. Just kind of on this topic, for our listeners who are listening to this and thinking, okay, well, I'm going to build my family and I'm moving into this world that might be a little bit more conservative, that maybe I live in Atlanta, but maybe I live in a small suburb. Maybe and I have to think about all of these things. I've got to find a doctor to accept me and my partner. I've got to think about are my kids going to feel comfortable at school? I've got to think about, is that teacher, and I don't know if you guys read my book, but in my experience, I had a teacher who did not see me as the mother of my children because I'm not genetically connected to my child. And, I live in New York. So you can still run across people who are not going to be accepting of your life. So, what would you say to people out there who are saying, I'm really worried about this, and they feel frozen, they feel so nervous, because those are the people that I'm trying to support. Of course,
Right.
again, I'm trying to support everyone, but people who get really frozen and think like, I can't do anything, I can't have a family, I can't get married, or I can't have kids. Are they going to have trouble? What would you guys say to the people out there about that?
Love your kids and love them hard. Kids are going to have trouble. I'm well versed I'm with kids. Kids are mean sometimes. They don't mean to be. They're unfiltered. I grew up with a mom and a dad. I had a disability, and people were so harsh about my disability. And it's a hidden disability. But kids will get bullied. They will get picked on. I wish that wasn't the world we live in. So if you're thinking about having kids and you're a same-sex couple, yes, they might face adversities. You will face adversities. Love your kids, love them hard, and help them navigate through those situations. Like, will my kids ever experience a situation where they don't have a father? Possibly. But from someone who did have a father, he was not always the best role model in my life. Like, just kids' first bullies often come from their homes. I want to say that again. Kids' first bullies often come from their homes, and it is really,
Wow.
really sad. So when same-sex couples have children, it is really intentional. It is, that child was a choice.
Yes.
And no judgment to the folks where it wasn't a choice, because I think you can also love equally and love hard and be a great parent, but just love your kids. And then when they do face things, help them through it. And I will also say this, advocating for queerness and LGBTQ situations, that's our fight. We're queer. Our kids so far are not, to our knowledge, they're not queer of any aspect at all. So I never make them online like, hey, talk about what it's like to not have a father. This is our fight. Now, when they get older, if they choose that they want to be a part of this fight, absolutely join us. So I also tell parents, like, don't make your kids fight the fight for you, but love them when they come home and they say things like, I wish I had a dad. It's going to hurt, and it's going to hurt hard, but just say, you know what? Tell me how you're feeling. What is this like? What are they saying at school? How can I better help you? Because this is our family. This is how we exist. What can we do to support you? Love those kids and love them hard. What do you want to say?
No, no, I don't have anything to add. That's great.
I'm with kids all the time. It's literally
Yeah.
my career. I'm well versed in it. She's in
Yeah.
corporate, like
Yeah.
doing
Well,
boring
but you
corporate.
guys,
Shush.
well, but you both have kind of lived through this, and I'm sure you can imagine, even though it sounds like a lot of these things kind of unraveled naturally for you, like you, after you came out, your parents warmed up to it eventually. You met each other, you fell in love, you got married, you decided to have kids, you were both on the same page, you didn't disagree with each other,
Yeah,
right? Right, like you guys, like
I've been a
things
little
kind of
lucky.
unraveled, right? It kind of unraveled, but a lot of people get at any one of those steps can get frozen.
When I was in college, I mean, I was shut down by my family. Like, this is gross. This is sinful. You're damned forever. I mean, there was a lot of tears and a lot of beliefs that when I was younger, if you had told me when I was 20 that I would be married to a woman, more specifically a woman of color, and that I would be teaching elementary school in Georgia with 2 children, I would not have believed you. It's not that it would have
Really?
been odd. It just didn't exist in my world. I had zero representation growing up. Even when Ellen came out on a sitcom, I was in college when that happened. There was no representation.
Wow.
And so we
Yeah.
definitely went through it.
Yeah, and when you went into education, that was Georgia was at the point where teachers were losing their jobs because they took a picture with a glass of wine.
Yeah, I mean,
So, like,
there was a teacher in the county over 2 years ago who was fired for reading a book called My Color's Purple, a non-binary children's book to her 5th grade class that she purchased from the school's book fair. That's literally the county adjacent to ours. She was fired 2 years ago. So it's still
Wow.
there. And
Yeah.
so we're in the mix of it. We choose to live our lives unapologetically.
we have been fortunate enough to be able to pick
Yeah.
our neighborhood and our, kind of the area in which we live, and it's been, from that standpoint, it has been very easy for us.
Well, that's a big thing. I mean, I have a lot of parents to be who say, should I consider moving?
If they have the means, it makes
Yes.
life a lot easier.
We were very intentional pre-kids, but if you're able and you have the means, because I've had, like, my sister works at a school district, and she's like, oh, she was a superintendent. She's retired now. She's like, you should come live here. You could get a much nicer house, a much bigger house. And I was like, yeah, but I'd have to be a teacher at your school district. And she's like, like, she was low-key offended. And I was like, don't you realize my family? And she's like, we have gay teachers and they're okay. I was like, I don't want to be okay. I want to be normal. I just want to live without worrying, like, am I okay? I said, they're not okay. If folks are able, we were very intentional about it. Definitely. But we do realize that everybody's not able to just pick up and move.
And at that point, you need to be your family's rock as much as you can.
Yeah. And it must be hard. I can't imagine trying to conceive kids and raising a family in an area where they're not going to be accepted. That would be really, really hard.
Yeah.
Watching somebody not like your kid or be mean to your kid is hard, When your kid doesn't get picked for the birthday party, those little things, it hurts as a parent.
Well, I mean, there's some states now where you can't, if you have gay parents, you can't talk about them.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, don't say gay. The whole don't.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell people when I advocate online as an elementary school teacher. They're like, your agenda, your agenda. I was like, every single class that I've had, and my children are not in my class, I have had a kid with gay parents, and they deserve to be advocated for. I have also had kids who ended up queer, who were trans, even in elementary school, who messages me later in life and thank me for the representation.
Oh, beautiful.
Queer kids are in elementary school, regardless of any agenda. Even if you put the 10 Commandments up in Texas.
That's right.
Put the 10 Commandments up in Texas, you're still going to have queer kids. I grew up very Southern Baptist, all the 10 Commandments, very religious, and voila. Y'all, I'm a gay. I'm gay can be.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I just heard on one of these videos that somebody said, well, if you're going to have an issue with who your kids are, then maybe don't have kids, because it's not Build-A-Bear. It's not Build-A-Bear.
No, not at all.
So
right. We love it. And I know this is not as serious. we love sports. I mean, soccer athlete in high school, college, softball, basketball athlete in college, season tickets to the Falcons. And we love sports. Typical lesbians, right? Our sons. So when we had two boys, not to make any assumptions or generalize, but we kind of leaned into, boys, sports. Nope, they hate sports. One wants to play the harp and the viola. The other one, he hyperfixates on things, like totally neurodivergent, like fans and clocks and things like that. Cars. Hate sports.
Yeah.
No, I mean, tennis, swimming.
We tried every sport. We've even asked them, here is a list of 20 sports. Pick one that you don't even have to want to play, but that you have a slight interest in.
Ballet.
We did ballet. I mean, we tried it all.
And you know what? Well, you have to realize as a parent, it's not, I can't live through them what I wish I'd had. So now we're the front row at the piano recital. I can't read music. The music teacher will be like, I can't read that, dude.
Yeah, they'll tell us what their lessons are, for what they're supposed to be practicing. I'm like,
music words.
I'm just going to rely on them to know what they're supposed to practice because I can't hear if it's wrong or not.
Right.
Our 11-year-old just told us, he's like, Mom, we need to get the piano tuned.
Like, I believe you.
Yeah.
Right. So,
but, you're rooting for them. Like, go piano.
Yes. Right. You just have to love your kids for who they
Absolutely.
are and love everybody for who they are, I guess is really the point of all of it.
For sure.
Right. That's, I think, a beautiful place for us to wind down. Is there anything else you'd like to tell our viewers before we end our session today?
I'll leave it to the speaker, the public speaker. I don't know.
People often ask us online, like, what's the key to a successful marriage and all this stuff? It's hard. Marriage is hard. Parenting is hard. You go through ups and downs. You question sometimes, like, how did I get here? Are these the right choices for me? But at the end of the day, doing it together and getting through it, even through the hard times, helps you get to the good times. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to go through lulls and dips, but just love hard. I was just talking to my niece about this recently. Mm-hmm. Love hard. You may have regrets, but your regrets will get you to where you are today. And I feel like our life turned out pretty good.
Oh yeah. I'm very happy with our in our family.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And I'm so appreciative that you share your lives with all of us on social media because it's just such a highlight when I see a video pop up. I feel like it's taken so long for me to find you, but I'm so glad I found you because it's really such a delight to watch you guys. It really is. So, you're just spreading joy and love, and the world needs a lot more of that. So thank you.
Thank you for that.
Well, could you share for those of you out there who don't know, can you guys share your social media handles with us or how people can reach you?
Sure. It's just mine. It's Miss Chang Gifted, MSCHANG Gifted. So Miss Chang Gifted, and that's going to be on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. It's the same on all channels.
Yeah, she's our influencer. I'm not on the.
You're not interested.
She watches. She's not even on Instagram.
I'm a lurker.
Okay. And can people message you there, or how do they?
So it gets kind of complicated. I have about 4 million followers on all of them combined, and so you get kind of inundated. I do have my DMs, my messages, for those of you who don't know what that is, on Instagram open. And depending, if it's kind of a slow period, sometimes I can respond to a lot of them because you also have the comments everywhere. But I have them shut down on TikTok just because it gets so overwhelming. And I would never respond to children just because I wouldn't want my children communicating with adults on social media. So I'm very respectful of that. But if I know if it's like a teacher, the teachers, like I'm speaking in Nashville this weekend. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to meet you in Nashville. And I'll message back and stuff like that. So absolutely message me there. I have a website, MissChangGifted.com. No surprise there.
Good.
It's so easy to find us and connect with us.
Yeah, right. I think you have an email address on.
I have an email. When you click on the bios and all that stuff, my email's there, my DMs. Terrific. It's so easy to communicate with us.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's
Google
great.
me.
Okay, terrific.
Yeah.
Terrific. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And keep doing what you're doing. It's wonderful. We need more of it. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. And for all of you who are out there, thank you for coming. I know your time is so precious, but it's so important to get positive information. You have a lot more support out there than you think. So keep going. Be your true self. There's a lot of love out there for you. And I'll see you next week. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this was helpful to you. And if you'd like more personalized support, more information, and more education, you can find it in the show notes under the Building Your Family community. We'd love to see you inside. And if you were interested in today's topic, you will really like this video.